All right, today we're going to tackle one of the most dangerous flashpoints on the entire planet, the Taiwan question. This is a really high-stakes standoff that could, believe it or not, draw in the world's biggest military powers. And we're here to break down exactly why.
So let's just get right to it, right to the heart of the matter. Why on earth is this island, which is about the size of the Netherlands, at the very center of a massive global power struggle? Well, the answer is this really complex tangle of competing histories, huge political ambitions, and, of course, national identity.
To really get a handle on all this, we've got to start with the here and now. The immediate tensions that keep this issue right in the headlines.
So, not that long ago, the whole world was watching as China launched these massive war games, literally surrounding Taiwan. And look, these weren't just your standard routine exercises. No, they were a powerful message, specifically designed to simulate a full-scale blockade and even an invasion.
And the message they sent, it was crystal clear. Beijing said point blank that the drills were a direct warning against what it calls separatism. Basically, any move by Taiwan toward formal independence, and foreign interference, which, let's be honest, is a pretty clear nod to the United States and its allies.
So, what is at the absolute heart of this disagreement? To really get it, you've got to understand that there are essentially two rival governments, and each one claims to be the legitimate ruler of the very same territory.
Okay, so on one side, you've got the People's Republic of China, the PRC, which governs mainland China from Beijing. It sees Taiwan as a breakaway province, and it's the government that holds the official China seat at the United Nations. But then, on the other side, you have the Republic of China, the ROC. That's the government in Taiwan. It's a vibrant democracy, and it was formed by the government that actually fled the mainland after losing the Chinese Civil War way back in 1949.
So how in the world did we end up with two competing governments? Well, the answer, as it so often does, lies in some pretty turbulent history. So let's do a quick run-through of the key moments that got us to where we are today.
For centuries, Taiwan's status has been in flux. It was part of China's Qing dynasty all the way back in 1684. Then, in 1895, it was handed over to Japan, and it was a Japanese colony for 50 years. After World War II ended, it was given to the Republic of China. But here's the real turning point, the crucial moment, 1949. That's when that same Republic of China government, after losing the Civil War to Mao Zedong's communists, retreated to Taiwan, and it's been governing from there ever since.
So as you can imagine, this very complicated history has created one of the strangest diplomatic puzzles in the entire world. Okay, so where does Taiwan actually stand on the global stage?
I want you to think about a number. Just one number. 12. That's it. As of now, only 12 countries in the world, mostly smaller nations, have formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan.
But wait, that number doesn't even begin to tell the whole story. Because, in reality, Taiwan's unofficial ties are incredibly strong. Most of the world's major powers, like the US and European nations, they all operate what are basically embassies in Taipei. They just call them something else. And the Taiwanese passport? It's really powerful. It gets you visa-free travel to most of the world. And here's the big one. Under US law, the United States is legally obligated to help the island defend itself.
Now, the really big diplomatic shift, the real game changer, happened back in 1971. That's when the UN voted to give the official China seat to Beijing. Beijing says, see, this proves Taiwan is part of China. But Taipei points to a critical detail, a huge ambiguity, really. The text of that resolution, it never actually mentions Taiwan, not once. It never settled the island's political status. And that ambiguity, it's still a massive point of contention to this very day.
So you can probably see where this is all going, right? It leads us to the big question that so many people ask. I mean, given everything we've talked about, isn't Taiwan, for all intents and purposes, already an independent country?
To answer that, you need to understand this key concept, de facto independence. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Basically, it just means you're independent in practice, in your day-to-day reality, even if you don't have that official, legal recognition from a bunch of other countries.
So let's just look at the evidence. What's happening on the ground? Does Taiwan elect its own leaders democratically? Yes, it does. Does it control its own territory and have its own military? You bet. Does it issue its own passports and use its own currency? Yes, and yes again. I mean, by almost any practical measure you can think of, it functions just like a sovereign state.
Okay, so if Taiwan is pretty much already independent in practice, what happens next? Well, this is where we get into a really delicate and honestly pretty dangerous balancing act.
The very first thing you've got to understand is what the people in Taiwan actually want.
And poll after poll consistently shows the vast majority of them don't want to change a thing. They prefer to just maintain the current situation, this status quo of being independent in all but name, without making some formal declaration that could spark a huge crisis.
And there is a very, very good reason for all that caution. Back in 2005, Beijing passed its anti-secession law, and this law explicitly gives China the legal justification to use military force if Taiwan ever takes formal steps to secede. It basically turned a political red line into a legal one.
But at the same time, Taiwan's leadership isn't backing down from asserting its sovereignty. The current president, Lai Ching-te, who Beijing has labeled a separatist, has been very careful with his words. He says that the two entities, the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China, are not subordinate to each other. It's a clever way of saying they're equals, without actually crossing that massive red line of declaring a new Republic of Taiwan.
So what we're left with is this incredibly fragile balance, a tense status quo that, deep down, no side really wants to shatter. And that leaves us with one final, really pressing question. In a standoff this delicate, where most people just want things to stay the same, what's the one thing, the one miscalculation, that could finally tip the scales and plunge the entire region into conflict?